Hello, welcome back to the James Ramen Reviews for yet another episode. And in today's episode, I'm actually going to be reviewing for you We Live in Time, which is the most recent movie featuring Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh, which I did get the chance to watch last night in the cinema with my sister. And so before I get into how I felt about this movie, I'd give it a 10 and stuff like that, I am going to give you, a bit of context so you understand going in, so it makes more sense as to how I feel about this movie. So there's definitely that. So because I mentioned this has Andrew Garfield in it, I'm going to say this, that I actually have enjoyed him in other movies he did. He did The Amazing Spider-Man. He also did this movie called Tick, Tick, Boom. He also did, he came back and played Spider-Man again for Spider-Man No Way Home. So there's definitely that, and he's got a bit of range where he can go from being Spider-Man to being a guy that sings in a movie called Tick, Tick, Boom, to obviously coming in and doing this movie about, this romantic, dramatic movie that you're going to find out about, where, all that kind of stuff. So there's definitely that. And also just to say this, that I obviously am not somebody that watches these types of movies very, very often, so I was coming into this very, very open-minded. And so let me just give you like a plot rundown without spoiling anything. So pretty much what you have here is you have a kind of like love story between two characters, Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. They have this love dynamic where, they're figuring things out and they're trying to come to terms with being in love with each other and realising what's ahead of them, the goals that they have in life, what they should do with the time that they have left, because something does happen to Florence Pugh's character, which I will not spoil at all, but it kind of shows this idea that there's only so much time before time runs out and you've got no time left. And so there's definitely that. And so how did I actually feel about this 1 hour and 47 or 48 minute movie? So I'm going to be honest into saying that I actually did really, really, really enjoy this movie. I'm not going to say it's the most perfect, flawless, outstanding masterpiece of the century, but it certainly was an enjoyable type of movie, because I feel like, Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh really do give it their all in this movie, especially because Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh have this dynamic where they kind of have a bit of banter with each other, and I thought that was quite hilarious how they're having all these little silly mini bits in between all these very, very sad, very, very dramatic scenes. So that's quite interesting, so that when they get into the dramatic parts of it, I did really enjoy how they were able to commit to the role and really feel like they're actually really sad and all that kind of stuff. That was really good about it. And also the pacing and, the structure of this movie, it isn't the most perfect, but it's also the most interesting. And what I mean by that, without spoiling it, is that, okay, it's interesting how they go from like the past to the present, to the present to the past kind of thing. Yeah, that does actually work, but at times, they'll be flipping forward and back and forward, 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 so that it kind of does get a bit repetitive to the point where it's like, okay, we're kind of just doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And so there's definitely that. But I wasn't like actually bored during this movie, but I just have to point that out because of the way it was structured and things like that. So yeah, overall I would actually give this like a solid 8 out of 10. Enjoyed the acting, and I will say that I did not actually cry once during this movie. So yeah, there's definitely that about the film. I do recommend this movie, and if you don't really like these types of this genre of film, you don't really care for Andrew Garfield or Florence Pugh, then maybe you don't need to see this movie. But as someone who is open-minded enough and who doesn't really even watch these types of films, yeah, definitely recommend it if you want to try something new, even though I would say that, the last little bit of this movie, it is quite predictable and stuff like that, because you know where it's heading, what's happening to Florence Pugh and stuff like that. So yeah, this is probably the best way to describe this movie. This is probably the best way that this is what I got out of the movie. And so yeah, that is my review of We Live in Time. And yes, you will be living in a time where you will see more reviews just like this one. So yeah, bye.